Now this video might be a little late, but I decided to do something a little special for the 2021 NHL season. But to keep it short and simple, I am going to be doing a brief thought on every team. Now, when I wrote this, I didn't want to go over 500 words, and I wrote 1,500, so 31 teams. Here we go. Anaheim. I'm not sure where you'll finish in the standings. Maybe a wild card spot. It wouldn't really surprise me. But if everything goes wrong, the emergence of Trevor Zegras should get you very, very excited. Oh, Arizona. If Darcy Kemper goes out there and plays like prime Patrick Waugh, maybe, just maybe, some playoff action. However, after the abysmal offseason, there's plenty of things that happened. Google it if you want to. It's looking like you'll be a lottery team without a lottery pick. Good job, management. Boston, oh Boston. After years of being a legitimate cup contender and even coming a win away from a title, you've officially been knocked down a peg. To top off all the L's you took this offseason, Torrey Krug, cough cough, you didn't even get your captain of 14 years back. Poor Zdeno Chara, I hope he enjoys Washington. You screwed him. You did. There's no rhyme or reason why you would have done that. But Kevin Miller on one leg should work out just fine, right? Now they find themselves in a packed Eastern Division. I don't see them making it to the postseason this year. Try again in 2022. The only possible way I see the Buffalo Sabres breaking their playoff drought is through a dominant season from Taylor Hall and Jack Eichel. I'm talking MVP caliber stuff from both of them. Even with that, it's Buffalo. So expect the absolute worst. I'm sorry, Sabres fans. Ah, yes, the Calgary Canucks. An offseason that dealt a crushing blow to Vancouver, taking players like Markstrom and Tanev and a couple more that I just can't think about right now. Are the former Canucks enough to get the Flames out of the first round? They've had a lot of difficulties the past half decade. They just can't get it done after 82 games. There's 56 games this year, so maybe that helps them a bit. If they mesh well, for sure they'll be a postseason team. But all these acquisitions make me worried that they'll end up being like the 2017-2018 Dallas Stars. Carolina, an early exit last playoff should get this team heated. This Hurricane squad could be very dangerous. They will definitely take advantage of a weaker Central Division. Yes, you have Tampa Bay and a few other teams there that can rival them, but easily they will be a top team. Sebastian Aho, Svechnikov, Toivu Teravainen are going to show up this year. They're definitely postseason bound. The only real issue I see with this Hurricanes team, they didn't really address goaltending this offseason. Is Mrazek the guy? It could be a problem down the road. Chicago. You had a bit of hope coming into this season, especially with a lot of young players coming into the lineup. But the last month-ish, the hockey gods decided to deal some long-term injuries to some integral players, captain included. The list is quite long. They'll be picked apart in the Central Division. Name their starting goaltender. Go ahead, lottery team. Try again in 2022. Colorado. After a surprising exit in the second round, the Avalanche are coming for blood. The sky's the limit, though, with Nathan freaking McKinnon. Defense, offense, and goaltending are going to be lethal. If it all clicks early in the season, this team could be easily atop of that President's Trophy race. Top of the West Division. Columbus. I've always underestimated this team going back half a decade. Tortorella knows what he's doing and can get the absolute most out of his talent. But they didn't address the offensive problem. I don't really think they have that talent to go very deep into the postseason. But if that awesome goaltending tandem can stay hot, I think they can make it. It's going to be tight, though. It is going to be tight. Hopefully Dubois stays. Dallas. A heartbreaking loss in the finals is enough pain to deal with. But throw on half a dozen injuries, guys like Tyler Seguin and Ben Bishop, and you have a potentially scary season. I have a bad feeling this Stars team will indeed miss the playoffs. Somewhere in my bones, I feel it. I hope the best for Dallas, but I'm just not sure about this team. Detroit. A lot of people are counting you out. They're right, but I understand that there is a method to Yzerman's madness. No playoffs this year, but that's not a shame. A lot of young players are getting a chance, which is instrumental for the future. Just naming Dylan Larkin your captain is a huge step into that future. Trust the process, Detroit. Edmonton. Let me take a guess. McDavid and Draisaitl go into MVP mode and light the Canadian division up. I think that's a guarantee at this point. Loving a lot of the offseason moves. There were a few iffy parts from the management, but overall, I think this team is playoff bound. There's too much talent on this team now to miss. It's playoffs or bust at this point, especially with the shortened season. But it's the Oilers. Lower your expectations, and maybe you'll be surprised. You know what you are, Florida? A talent waster, where players go to shrivel up and die. I'm speaking about Roberto Luongo. You've wasted careers before. Don't do that to Huberdeau and Barkov. They are in their prime. They're still in their early 20s. And they just came off some of their best seasons ever. They deserve better. Just do something for once, Florida. If Bobrovsky plays like years past, yes, this team will see playoff hockey in the future. But the sport is weird, so I'll bet on him being better. Los Angeles. This season is already a wash. I hate to say that because you are a rebuilding team. That is what you are. But do not fret. The farm system is probably the best in the entire NHL. Having just the second overall pick last draft, you're looking great for the future. It's only a matter of time until they make their way up into the NHL. Try again next year. A little bit older, and maybe playoffs later. Minnesota. One man can change the face of Minnesota as we know it. Kirill Kaprizov, a KHL phenom, sniper, and probably the 2021 Calder winner. Yes, the Wild did a few other things, some questionable, some okay. But it is up to this one man. It really is. He can change everything. I can see this team making the playoffs. Most likely the fourth best team in the West. But you have a few other teams right behind you that could take advantage of that division. Montreal. My favorite team. I could talk about them for hours. I could talk about every trade and acquisition. I could talk about Bergevin, but I'm not here to do that. I have to keep it short and sweet. A lot of offseason moves. Bergevin did what he needed to do. He added talent. A few questionable trades, but the Habs are in win-now mode. If the young guard, like Suzuki and Kotkaniemi, clicks with the old guard, I can see Montreal near the top of the Canadian division, but they gotta click. They got to gel. Right out of the gates. Nashville. I don't want to be mean to this team. I kind of feel bad. They missed that window. What exactly are you, Nashville? I can't really put my finger on it. The hype is long gone. Honestly, I don't know where to place you in the standings. Middle of the pack, maybe a playoff team, but did they do anything to make this team better for next season? Are they going to change? I guess it's up to them at this point. They write their own destiny. New Jersey. I'm actually kind of impressed with the Devils' offseason. Adding some solid additions for relatively cheap. It's just too bad Crawford decided to retire before him and Blackwood could play a great season together. It would have been a scary tandem. They might have been pretty good together. But they are playing in the Monster East Division. I don't see them anywhere near the top, but this team should take that step forward in at least competing and growing. That's important. New York Islanders. Another team that I always underestimate. Very eerily similar to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Coaching is important. Remember that. If the Islanders buy into Barry Trotz's system once again, they will be playoff bound. I still don't see the high-end talent on the roster, excluding Anders Lee and Barzell. But this postseason proved how important coaching is. The East Division is brutal once again. However, I can see them making it. New York Rangers. Adding a franchise-type player in Lafreniere only makes this team better. A dynamite goalie tandem in Shesterkin and Georgiev. A legit offense. And a solid defense. The Rangers will make the playoffs. If this team doesn't make the playoffs, then that is one of the biggest disappointments I see going into this season. I hate giving that organization positive remarks, but I really want to see the first overall pick and Panarin play together. It's going to be dynamite. It should be. Ottawa. Really solid offseason. But can everyone gel, though? I don't think the talent added is enough to put them over the edge. Last season, they might have even overperformed, but they get a guy in Tim Stützle. He is the X factor. For the Sens, if he plays good, Ottawa might compete, but I think they're going to ultimately fall short to some better Canadian teams. I think they are better than we think. Philadelphia. There's not a whole lot to say about you. It always comes down to goaltending for Philly. If Carter Hart plays like he was recently, the Flyers will be atop that East Division. Everything else on that team should be A-okay. They didn't really add a whole lot in the offseason, but I think their loss against the Islanders was a fluke. I think they're one of the most talented Eastern teams. Playoffs, book it. Pittsburgh. Whenever we think it's the year for the Pens to fall off, they just hold on. I hate betting against Sidney Crosby because you should never do that. People forget he's still a top 5 player in the NHL. It irks me to say this, but I think the Penguins might miss the playoffs for the first time in a very... technically they didn't make the playoffs last year because Montreal beat them. Woot woot. I don't want to, gloat. But the Penguins, I think, are going to obviously compete. With Sidney Crosby there and Malkin and Gensel, they should be okay enough to compete for that 4th place spot, but I'm not too sure if they're going to make it. San Jose. Was last year just a bump in the road, or was it a sign of things to come? This team is getting older, and the prospect pool is quite dry. It could be a future disaster. Very similar to when Detroit made the playoffs for 20 plus straight years. And once all those guys retired and got older and fragile, they fell off and they had nothing in the system. They imploded. San Jose has a bunch of teams in that division that they have to compete with, one of them being Minnesota, who's on the fringe of making that playoff. It's a toss-up, but I don't think they will qualify. St. Louis, you lost your captain, but you definitely added some stellar pieces for relatively cheap. The Allen deal, awful. I appreciate it that it was with Montreal, but you didn't really get a whole lot there. They should be good enough to be one of 4 teams to make it into the playoffs in the Central Division. Maybe first in that division. Maybe second, third. I don't see them being the last team. They're pretty damn good. Hoffman and Krug are going to be great for St. Louis. Tampa Bay. Yes, you might have Kucherov on the injury list, but this team is fresh off of a Stanley Cup win, and they somehow kept this squad together, even with cap issues. One of the Cup favorites, if not the most favorited team, easily playoffs, no doubt about it. Toronto. Oh, Maple Leafs, you perennial disappointments. How many years has it been since a first-round win? I'm not going to go into specifics. I'm not sure how the postseason is going to go, but that is a problem for 56 games later. A great offseason by GM Kyle Dubas will help the Leafs compete level throughout the lineup. I think they're for sure a playoff team. Vancouver. We should have known how the Canucks would finish 2020. Game 7 of round 2 and the way they let Demko down is foreshadowing the 2021 season. Don't get me wrong, they have talent. Quinn Hughes, Pettersson, they got a lot. The terrible offseason didn't help their cause. No playoffs, Vancouver. Try again next year. Vegas. You'll be great. Just naming Mark Stone as your first captain in franchise history is a huge step into the future. One of the best teams in the West, no doubt. Pietrangelo is a great addition. Playoffs are definitely going to be in Vegas' future. Personally, I want them to fold and fail miserably because every NHL fan base should suffer through legitimate pain for 20, 30 years before they win anything. I'm not petty. I'm just a realist, okay? Washington. You got older, but you're still a great team. Ilya Samsonov needs to have that season. He needs to take over for Braden Holtby. Yes, Braden Holtby hasn't been that former Vezina winning guy, but Samsonov needs to come into the fold perfectly. I'm not even sure who their backup is going into the season, but they have Ovechkin and company. They should be just fine. Enjoy Zdeno Chara. I see them in the postseason this year. Winnipeg. All I have to say, do not, I repeat, do not, any under circumstance, trade Patrick Laine. It doesn't matter if he wants out. That is a player you move other players to keep. You want to keep him happy. He is a legitimate goal scorer. Guess what's hard to do in the NHL? It's hard to score goals. Kevin Cheveldayoff, I believe, is the general manager of the Jets. What are you even doing? You traded for Stastny? This team is in its prime. They have so many young guys, and you're not taking that step. If Hellebuck plays at a Vezina pace, you'll be just fine. Then to playoff team. But in hockey, expect the unexpected.